Hey guys, so I hope you really enjoyed our very first part for our Flutter workshop. In that one we went over the Flutter basics and then over the Dart language. If you didn't get a chance to watch that, then we do have the recording of the stream available on our YouTube channel. So go ahead and check that out. If you have experience learning a new language already or already know Java, then don't worry too much about learning Dart because it's very similar syntactically and it's not a very hard language to learn at all. So what I wanted to do in this video is to prepare you guys for our very next workshop by making sure that you have everything downloaded so we can run Flutter in an IDE for our very next tutorial on Sunday, October 4th at 3 p.m. So what I first wanted you guys to get checked is to make sure that you have virtualization enabled. So we can do that on a Windows laptop by searching Task Manager. And if you don't use it that often, this is what it will come up and see. So what you'll want to do is click on More Details and go over to the Performance tab and make sure you have CPU selected. So after you do that, you're going to look for the virtualization field right here. And you want to make sure that that's set to enabled. And what that'll let us do is allow us to use an Android emulator. And if it's set to disabled, don't worry too much. What you'll want to do is to set it to enabled, and most likely you'll have to do that by starting up in your BIOS. And to figure out how to do that, it's specific to each different kinds of different PC. But you'll want to look up your PC manufacturer. For me, it's HP. And then you want to look up Enable Virtualization. When you do that, you should see plenty of tutorials and videos as well, and that'll walk you through the steps to simply turn on virtualization, so you can make sure you have that ready for the next few steps. So if you don't have that enabled, then go ahead and follow those steps and pause the video now and come back once you're ready to go. So now that we made sure that virtualization is enabled, and also another big thing is that you'll want to make sure that you have enough gigs of RAM on your laptop, probably at least 8, because whenever you're running an emulator, it's going to take about 2 to 3 gigs of your RAM. And if you don't have too much, it's going to severely slow down your laptop or your PC. So you'll want to make sure you have enough RAM on your PC so you are able to follow along quickly enough. So the very first thing we'll want to download, and we'll put all the download links in the description of the YouTube video, or you can also just look them up in Google and you should find the exact same links. So the first thing is going to be Git. So if you don't already have that, you'll want to download that because that's how we're going to install Flutter, and then we'll also need that to clone a repo when it comes time for our third part, when we start working on our travel app. So go ahead and pause it and download it if you don't already have it, and if you do, then we can move on. So the very next thing to download is going to be Android Studio. We're going to be using Android Studio to create an emulator. So using that link we provide, or by looking up Android Studio download, you can go here, and if you have Windows, click on this link that just says download Android Studio, follow those steps, or if you have Mac, you can click on download options and select Mac as well. So after you have that done, I already have it done, you'll want to open it up and pause it if you're still downloading. So after we have this pulled up, you won't see these exact same options on yours because mine is a little bit different because I have other plugins installed. But what we'll be needing to click on is this configure cog right here. If it's not showing up, because this does happen occasionally, we just want to move this up and down the window just to see if it'll pop up, which it should. So what you'll want to do is click on configure, and you'll want to click on AVD Manager, which is Android Virtual Device Manager. And this should pull up, and you'll want to click on Create a Virtual Device right here. So when that happens, we have a whole list of different devices we can use as our emulator. So what I'm going to be using is the Pixel 3 XL, and you don't have to. You can choose any phone that you would like to use, but I'm just going to be using the Pixel 3 XL. After you choose the one that you want, you can click on Next, and then you'll have to choose a system image, or essentially an OS. So I already have Q downloaded on my PCs, but you might not have it done, and we're going to be using Q in this tutorial, in this workshop. So you'll want to click on the download link, or not necessarily link, but the download button, and what that'll do is it'll start the download for that OS. After it's complete, go ahead and click on it and go next. So this just lets you name your device and change any settings. I'm not going to really change anything, so I'm just going to click on Finish. After that's done, we now have a virtual device set up. So if we click on the play button, it should launch. So we have it pulled up here now. Might take a little bit for it to first start up, so I'm not going to really worry about this for now. I'm just going to go ahead and X this out, but I'm first going to X out these. So as you can see, it's starting up, or I'll let it finish doing that in the background so we can just move on. So now that we have Android Studio downloaded, we're going to want to now download VS Code, which is the IDE I will be using in our tutorials in our workshop. So you don't have to necessarily use VS Code. That's just my personal choice as an IDE. You can use Android Studio as well if you like, or you can use another one of your preferred choice. It's just if you want to follow along exactly as I am, then you'll want to download VS Code for whatever system you're using. So go ahead and download that and follow the instructions and unpause when you're ready to go. So now we're at the part for actually installing Flutter. So when you come to the link that we provide in the description, or just by looking up Flutter install, you will have a few choices for each operating system. I'm going to show you how to do Windows because that's the one I'm using, and that's the one I know how to install. But if you don't, if you have a Mac instead, then go ahead and click on that and follow those instructions. They shouldn't be very hard at all to figure out. And if you get lost, then there's plenty of tutorials out there in terms of how to get started as well. So for first, it'll give us some system requirements. Definitely check those to make sure you meet them, but you should be ready to go. So what we'll want to do is, let me first off exit this emulator. And you can do that by clicking the X right there. And what we'll do is we'll first create a folder in our C drive for installing Flutter. So you can do that by opening up your file explorer, clicking on this PC, and going into your C drive. So we're going to create a new folder here. You can right click, go to new, and then folder, and call it SRC, source. And after we do that, I'm going to go ahead and X this out for now. And I'm going to open up a command prompt. And we can do that by just typing CMD and enter. And what we'll want to do is now navigate to that new folder we created. So right now we're in the C drive in a folder that is users, and also then in a folder called kchan, which is my user folder. So to go back, we'll want to do cd, which means change directory, and then ... which takes us back one directory. When we click enter, it should take us back into the user folder. We're going to do that one more time. So cd and then space ... and it'll take us into our C drive. Now that we're here, we'll want to navigate into our SRC folder that we just created. So we do that by doing cd, change directory, and then SRC, the name of our new folder. So now we are inside the SRC folder. So what we'll want to do is clone this clone the Flutter from GitHub. So on that link we provided, you should see a link to a GitHub clone, and you can just go ahead and copy that. And in command prompt, just paste that in by either right-clicking or Control-V. And now it's going to go ahead and clone Flutter. So it might take a little bit because it's a fairly large file. Okay, so now that we've installed Flutter, I'm going to go ahead and X this out for now. And let's navigate over to that folder we just created, SRC, and see what's inside it now. Now we should see this Flutter folder show up. So if we go into that, the thing that we see all these files that have now been put on our PC. And let's go ahead and open up the Flutter console, which should be one of those files inside there. So what we'll want to run now that we're in this Flutter console is something called Flutter Doctor. What that'll do is it'll check our SDK version, and then it'll notice that we don't have the Dart SDK done. So we'll go ahead and download that for us. So that's about to be done, but the next thing I wanted to show you was how to update your path. So the reason why we want to update our path is so we're able to use Flutter commands in the command prompt. Because right now we can only use it within the Flutter console. So what we'll want to do is to go ahead and go into our search bar and type in ENV and press enter, which will pull up this Systems Properties tab. And you'll want to click on Environment Variables and then double click on your path environment variable. So what we'll want to do is to add this variable that leads to the Flutter bin. So what you'll do is click on New, and then you'll want to type in exactly what you see here above this line, which is C:/src/flutter/bin. And after you do that, I'm just going to exit that one, then click on OK, OK again, and you should be good to go and able to use Flutter commands in your command prompt. So by now the Flutter Doctor should be ready to go, and after you run it once more, you should see a lot of check marks. You should see that Flutter is checked. You might get a warning on Android toolchain. I'll tell you what to do there, and you should probably get a warning on VS Code. I'll tell you what to do there as well. So for this first one, Android toolchain. So you're probably getting an error saying that you have to accept the Android licenses, and it should give you a command that you have to run. The command is going to be flutter doctor --android licenses. It took me a little bit too much time, but when you run that, for me, nothing really will happen, but for you guys, it should make you start accepting each of the licenses. You just press Y and enter for each of them. After you're done and you run Flutter Doctor again, you should see Android toolchain checked off, and then VS Code will finish up by dealing with that final one. So you can go ahead and X everything out, and we can pull up VS Code now. So VS Code, and we'll want to open up a new window. If you haven't used it before, then it should open up one automatically. You'll want to go to extensions. So after you click on the extensions tab, you'll want to go to Flutter. You want to search that up. You'll select that one and click on install. And what this will do is it'll download the Flutter extension for VS Code and also the Dart extension for VS Code at the same time. So now that we have that installed, what we can go ahead and do is let's make our very first Flutter project just to make sure everything is running correctly now. So click on View and then Command Palette. What you'll want to run is Flutter and then New Project. And then I'll ask you for the name. I'm just going to call it test_01. I'm going to press enter. and now it'll ask me where I want to create this project. So I'm going to go ahead and so I would recommend creating a folder for all your Flutter projects just so you can have everything organized. I have it in my documents folder, and I have something called Flutter projects. So I'm just going to select this as my folder, and it should create your very first project. So it'll take a little bit of time for it to run this thing called Flutter create, and all your files will start to load in over time. We should get a few errors too as things still continue to analyze and render, so those should disappear in a few moments. So right now we have a lot of folders that have been put in. We have one for Android, one for iOS, and then a test folder, which we're not particularly going to be using, so you don't have to really worry about that. You could even delete it if you feel like it. And then we have a few other files down here, and we'll go through all of these in the tutorial on the workshop. But the one that I want you to just check out real quick is the lib folder, which is where your project will go and where you'll create all your files for the most part. So we have this thing called main.dart, which has a main function and is running my app, which is this widget right here. So let's go ahead and see what this actually shows. And we can do that by simply in VS Code holding Control and then pressing F5. When you do that, this should pull up at the top and it says Start and then Pixel 3 XL API 29, which is our emulator. When we click on that, it'll launch the Pixel 3 XL that we just got, and it should pull up our app after a few moments. So after a very long wait, it's finally pulling up, and you should see this pull up, which is the Flutter boilerplate code, and should just be a simple clicker with a button. But when you click it, it should increase by 1 each time. And we'll go through what everything else means and whatnot in our very first workshop, but if you get to this point, then you're ready to go. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and to stop your emulator, you can just click on this square up here on VS Code. It says stop, and then you can exit your emulator by clicking this X button, close. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this very quick tutorial. You can delete what we just created, this project. We're not really going to be using it. And we'll start one up on at the beginning of our very next workshop. But other than that, I hope to see you then, and I hope you have everything set up. Thank you.